Hey, good morning, folks. It's Jason Wampler, the disembodied voice who serves as the host for another installment of The Rocket Minute. And I'm going to do something. I'm actually going to close the window. It's getting a little cold. Sorry, honey. Um, it is Saturday at around 9 a.m. And what I am going to do is I'm going to show you this particular coupling section. I'm having to build it up with white duct tape. Unfortunately, it's a cheap version of duct tape. I don't really like or enjoy this stuff. The reason being, this stuff is very, very thin. Of course, if the manufacturers of this particular tape were to make it any thicker, it would cost more. And the manufacturer made a good product; they just made it very thin. Of course, they're aiming for a specific market, meaning as a specific price range for certain buyers that visit these retail outlets. This stuff I got for like $1.49 at the 99-cent store. It's no longer 99 cents. I don't think they could have kept up with that act either. With the trade wars with China, NAFTA is now back online. So the United States, Canada, and Mexico are now the manufacturing hubs for North America, South America, et cetera, et cetera. I can get into the whole thing about the dynamics of the trade wars between the United States and China and the current presidential administration's efforts to carry on where Donald Trump left off, which was to balance the budget and eliminate the trade deficit, which is killing this country's economy. I'm talking about the United States of America. Anyway, this isn't social political commentary. This is showing how to build your rockets. Now, this has a casting seam on it. So this was a clamshell cast piece. The mold of the clamshell has two trowels joined together, injection mold points, and a sticker that you'd have to use a grinding wheel to remove. I don't know why people do this. I really don't like manufacturer stickers. Make the damn thing so you can just peel that crap off. But, nobody listens to me. But we're building this up with tape. The reason we're doing that is because I'm showing you, this is the center fuselage section. It's that clear nylon material. And the reason I'm building it up, this needs to fit snug in this housing, but it also needs to fit snug in the upper and lower halves of the rocket itself. This white housing is going to house the electronics, the separation pots. There's two of them on either end, 1, 2. The smoke pots, one on either end, 1, 2. It's going to have a GPS locator / black box. It's going to have a timer for the separation unit. I'm probably going to put a fake slug with an electrical ignition point through the wall of this that'll connect to the ignition leads, physical ignition leads, wired ignition leads outside of the rocket on the launch pad. But for later generations, and I'm going to develop and use what's called RCHEI ignition. RCHEI, which stands for Remote Control Head and Ignition, which is a wireless version of ignition for rockets with between 1 to 8 motors. So I'm not entirely sure if something like that exists, but I have an idea as to how to make it work. Hey folks, I'm not a real smart fellow. I may come across as intellectual or something. It's taken me a really long time to get to this point. A lot of materials and structural research. Structural design is one thing, but you need materials to sort the function of your structural design of your rocket. If the materials fail, the structural design is not bad. It's the materials themselves that's bad, and that's your mistake. So, in addition to designing a rocket, you kind of have to go back and forth with what's affordable and available as far as structural materials are concerned. I'm talking about coupling points and housing for the electronics, the actual body motor, the fuselage material itself, material for the fins and such and so forth. You can talk about all that. Right now we're talking about coupling section slash electronics and recovery section of this particular rocket we're building. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there up against the corner. You can't. This camera has a limited scope of view. So let's get started. It's better to build up the tape and build it up too much instead of rolling it to a certain point for thickness, then trying to fit it and determine you have to put more tape on it. The reason being you're causing a break in the continuity of the roll of the tape, and it adds to production time, and of course time translates directly into money. This is an enjoyable and interesting hobby, but all the same, nobody wants to waste their time. You become a 53-year-old adult, you suddenly realize that several things are very important in your life. And one of which is your life forces, your relationship with your God, and the other thing is your time. Nobody has to tell me to be stingy or selfish with my time. I don't give anybody more than 5 minutes of my life before I simply zone out and tell them, look, I have to get going. Nobody in my life gets more than 5 minutes unless they're buying me dinner or you're a really pretty woman. One of those two. My mouth is getting really dry, so I've got a nice fruit juice drink. So what I'm going to do, I keep wrapping this section. Make sure you wrap it at a right angle, a long axis of the tube itself. We're doing things in sections. I could spiral wrap it, but I'd be concerned about the appearance. But then again, when you sand this material down, it's going to be opaque. So I'm thinking to myself as I'm actually talking about it and thinking. And I'm thinking it may not be a bad idea. So I'm thinking it might go more quickly if I did think that way. But then again, that would be experimenting on camera, and I'm not really entirely sure I can do that. So I'm just going to stick to this stuff, and here we go. I have to go to a 99-cent store. There's one right around the corner from the house. What I'm going to do is build these ends up a little bit. I'm probably going to use the same stuff, but I'm watching a movie called What Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt is one of my favorite actresses. And here we go. So we're in the process of wrapping this. Like I said, over wrap it. Get it to be too thick. That way you can cut it and trim it down to the right size. I want to show you the tension it needs to have. Again, this is an involved construction project. Remember, you're scratch building these things. I tout the merits of how valuable time is. But you know what, people? What I'm really aiming for is help you guys build a 4-engine rocket that actually works at an affordable price. Instead of paying $400 or $500 for a kit, or $200, $300 for a kit, and paying somebody else's car rent and car payment, instead of making other people rich, be smart about sourcing out these materials. Follow my lead and listen to what I have to say. You can literally build rockets for pennies on the dollar. There's no excuse not to. And of course, I don't think anybody is comfortable with the thought of actually wasting your money. I'm getting the feeling that this is in fact probably the best way to do this. And do this in sections. And I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. That's an old saying. You kind of make plans and you stick to those plans. So we're going to keep rolling it. This takes some experience doing. Like I said, you've got to visualize the angle which the tape is wrapped around the tube and make sure it's at a perfect right angle. That's 90 degrees, the long axis of the pipe itself. You can always use the casting seam for reference for that 90-degree angle that you need. And the reason you need to do that is because this tape is going to spiral. It's not going to wrap square. It's going to wrap spiral if you're off on that angle, and it's going to make problems for you. You want to do this in sections. You don't necessarily want to do it in a spiral wrap. Now, maybe on future builds, I can try a spiral wrap, And frankly, if I am worried about the looks, I shouldn't be, because as mentioned before, when you install this material, you can see the irregularity, the surface irregularities of the tape. When you start sanding it down, which is what you're supposed to do, you don't want shiny surfaces like that. They do cause drag, and I'll explain why. You want to sand this down, then of course you're not going to be able to see the surface irregularities on this particular housing / coupling tube, because it'll become from clear and see-through somewhat opaque, and it just won't be able to see through it and see the detail. If you do paint the Rocket, I recommend you use polymer type of paint, something that can take an impact and flex. The type of paint, like the automotive paint, the expensive stuff, that's going to be one of your biggest cost besides the electronics and the motors. Use a flexible paint, something that's used on automotive plastic bumpers, something that can flex without chipping. And so that way, when the Rocket does land, it hits a little hard, it's not going to break, it's not going to chip that brittle type of paint that's used for harder surfaces. So the wrapping is going pretty good. This takes some practice, and you really got to practice your ability to eyeball things. Now I'm feeling this edge. It's wider than this edge. You got to get a feel for how thick this stuff is. And again, you're always safe for overwrapping it, because you have no overlap tape. Now tape doubling and tripling up on only one wrap. One wrap or one layer of tape. You start cutting things and trying to join stuff together. You either have a gap where the tape will sag, or the tape will lump up and it'll fit tight on just that one side. So like I said, go ahead and overwrap. If it's too thick, if the fitting is too tight, you cannot manage to slip it inside this tube, then of course just cut the tape back. Again, this is a slow process. Folks, I feel the need to reiterate the statement. The single biggest cost, not the single biggest cost, but the biggest cost in aerospace, in my opinion, my observation, my being in aerospace, micro aerospace for that matter, is the labor. Now I'll tell you why. Everything has to be custom fabricated. There are very few, if any, rapid assembly line tools can be manufactured for limited run products like commercial aircraft or rockets. They're just not mass manufactured like vehicles, helmets, or footballs are. That being the case, a lot of specialized tools are used. There is the assistance with computers, jigs, there's machine shops, these aerospace companies, and such and so forth. But everything is handmade. It is literally the labor of love. It is labor intensive, and of course, when you work for an aircraft company, you design, engineer, and build a rocket of your own, you custom manufacturing it. You notice you're going to spend a lot of time, and that's your labor. The people I'm talking to, I know you have time, but you can't just make money appear out of nowhere. Again, I do not recommend, as of yet, I do not recommend buying a kit just to learn things that way. Even Estes, those kits are just getting too expensive. And again, it may have something to do with the trade war in China, because a lot of Estes manufacturing was outsourced to China. Now the United States is not trading as freely with China as they did before the COVID-19 epidemic, strangely enough. Okay, so I'm going to keep wrapping this. I want to be confident this is going to be a tight fit. I don't want to cut it short because I don't want single wrap overlap. I was a poet and didn't know it. So I'm going to wrap this about one or two more times. It probably is going to be oversized. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and unwrap it, take it down a layer, a section of a layer at a time, until it has that nice fit that I'm confident with. And then I'm also actually starting to rethink my decision not to do a spiral wrap, because this is kind of a clunky in its appearance. I do have an idea of maybe how I can remedy that, but I have to explore that option as well. So anyway, what time are we at? We're at the 14-minute and 50-second mark. And significantly thicker. Unfortunately, I spilled glue on my latest pair of scissors, and that is not fun for me because they're ruined. I had to throw them out. They're very cheap, but it's an inconvenience because I have to take a trip to either 99-cent store or Harbor Freight and get another pair. I have to go to 99-cent store anyway, therefore I'll just do that way. And look at that. That's a perfect snug fit. You know what this is? Now that I've got this way, that's exactly where I want it. That is exactly perfect. That's where I want it. I could actually have made it a little tighter and actually done another half wrap, but that's absolutely perfect. Okay, sorry, I'm fighting a cold, so forgive me. So here we go. This particular point, this wrap right here, it's almost impossible to know exactly how thick this tape is going to wrap and compress to. You can try and use a computer for this, but I find math a hindrance. That's going to hold up your project, make things go 5 times slower. Just use a few tricks and some intuition, you get by better. Now that this is snug, sufficiently snug in this hole, just the way I want it. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually thinking. I said I wouldn't do this. I'm actually thinking I might just want to put one more wrap on it. See how snug that is. So this is kind of a mess. This is trial and error because I'm going to go ahead and confess this is the first time I've actually used these type of couplers in this particular type of design on this particular material. Everything's all new. I kind of talk like I know what I'm doing. I do, but you know, as an engineer and designer myself, I'm always pushing not so much to change things, but to improve things. So that is inherent with anybody who is an engineer, men and women alike. They always want to change things because they feel there's a better way to do things, period. Not at a perfectly right angle. I'm kind of laying things down and taping things. I forgot how thin this tape really is. It's a good product. It's just the tape is half as thin as it actually needs to be. It's wrapping okay. I'm able to steer it. And it's okay with tape this thin. It's harder. So regular duct tape has some flexibility to it. Not like electrical tape, where you can kind of yank it back and forth, side to side, like so, and get it to line up again at that right angle with the wrong axis of the rocket. Okay, so now I've wrapped it again. That's a little bit thicker. Again, I don't like to do that. I'm violating my own laws and my own suggestions. I'm telling you not to do this, but over wrap it. Another thing that involves, since we're talking about that, is the fact that now that we've got this as a stencil, the ideal size, and there you go. That's actually much, much, much better. That's a snug fit. I don't see that much of an air gap. I'm more satisfied with that. Now all I have to do, this end right here, hold on. Okay, well that's even better news right there. But that's all I have to do. I have to put one more wrap on this side, build that wrap up, and they all need to be the same size as this particular wrap right here. This is the example I'm going for, and I'll show you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I always say that, but I always mean it. So we're at the 19-minute mark. I tell you what, folks, I know these videos are short, but you're going to see the gradual progression of how this rocket is being built. Let's leave this off for a second. I'm going to come back to this. I'll do this on my own. I wanted to show you what I did. And here's what I discovered. I'm a real hypocrite because this is somewhat new territory that I'm covering. I've got to reorganize my food while I'm at it. Okay, there we go. That's the upper fuselage section. This is the rocket itself. These are the motors, and I've got to really clean them up. There's a coating on this aluminum. It's not pot aluminum. It hasn't been, not that it hasn't been boiled properly. That's layer after layer. I don't really like this crap. It's off an old beach chair. I'm going to use medical equipment. Use medical equipment that nobody wants. Use the aluminum off of walkers or canes and stuff that you can't get away. Nobody wants to have any use for. So I want to take stuff away from the handicapped or elderly individual just to make a rocket. But I got everything cleaned up. I just wanted to show you the detail. I really built up the double-sided tape. These have been officially fastened to the fuselage by cyanoacrylate. Again, be careful using cyanoacrylate with this clear type of plastic. But I was able to avoid the use of adhesives altogether because, again, I used tape to build up this tube to join and transition to this larger tube. But instead of continuously wrapping double-sided tape, which is almost impossible, and it will offset, so the fuselage will not, where it joins its transition, will not be aligned properly. You cut it in even sections. You keep layering it, and I had to go with 1, 2, 3, 4. I had to go with 7 layers of double-sided tape. I got that for $2 a roll at Harbor Freight. Mine is in Anaheim on State College Boulevard, adjacent to the 57th freeway, etc., etc. So 7 layers of tape there, 7 layers of tape there. But I gotta warn you, as a tight fit, I should have shot a video on how I did it. I will next time. I was able to avoid the use of glue because I didn't want to wrap the tape on top of the adhesive backing of the tape below it. I had to remove it. And the thing is, when it comes to the final, like I said, you don't glue something to the paint job of a car because the only thing holding up the part is the paint itself. The same thing with this tape. Remove the backing. The only thing this tube is being glued to is the tape backing. Once it loses the adhesion, then you're going to lose the fuselage. So I took the tape off the 7th layer. The problem is this stuff is really, really good at what it does. It sticks to plastic surfaces very well. I had a mishap right there. So I went ahead and compressed it with my fingers trying to get it to fit that way. I didn't want to just put slather and lather on it. If you have tight fit, you put glue on it, you get up halfway and it will hang up. And you guess what you get to do? You get to either rebuild the rocket or throw the whole, or cannibalize what you can save, and throw the rest of the damn thing out. You're stuck and you're done. And you got to buy more materials. It takes more time. It's a bummer. I've been there. I don't want you to make that mistake. So what I did, I kept wetting down this material with water to compress it, and then I timed it, and then I put water, tap water, which looks really ugly. That's what's in Fullerton tap water. I put water in it and water on the strings and really compressed them, and then I was able to slip it in and actually kind of pop back and forth and yank because this double-sided tape is so good. It wanted to do its job, and it was drying off, and it wanted to adhere to the inner diameter of the fuselage, the main fuselage tube. But because everything dried out, it is ugly looking. I'm gonna take this car wash and kind of rinse it off. But I was able to to put this rocket together without any type of glue whatsoever. Now what I'm thinking is somehow, some way, if I can calculate what width of double-sided tape to use, I can adhere the motors together, clusters of motors together, and I can adhere them to the fuselage with double-sided tape. I can do transitions and sections of fuselage, join those to smaller sections of fuselage without the use of glue. And the reason I'm saying this, using glue has always been an unpleasurable experience of mine. When I was a kid, I would build model aircraft, and I enjoyed that, but what I didn't enjoy, because they odorized and made odorized the cyanoacrylate and made it in the gel form. And it smelled like oranges and almonds testers, the orange stuff. Not suitable for kids. But I never liked using this stuff. I don't like the way it felt. Now I'm finding methods where I can bypass the use of glue and just using adhesive tape to put something together, then this stuff holds up great. Now, of course, I use cyanoacrylate here for these runners, and of course, this is exposed and it's unsightly. I have to do something about that. However, I'm thinking, as my research and development evolves, I'll be able to eliminate that and get to people in YouTube land to the point where you don't have to use adhesive glue. You don't have to use glue anymore. You just use adhesive tape. Perhaps even for transonic level 2 projects. However, level 3 projects are a different animal altogether. I don't have my level 2 or level 3 certifications. I have built motors before. I have a level 1 certification. So that's all I feel licensed to talk about. When I start engaging my level 2 project, because I have the motor system assembled for right now, then we'll start doing a video on that. But for the time being, I want to concentrate on these projects. And it looks like Paxton wants to be part of this movie too. Paxton has been especially affectionate lately. He's a codependent cat. So he's not just cuddling with his sister. He wants to sit in my lap every opportunity he gets. And of course, he's laying and walking across on top of the rocket. He finds what I'm doing fascinating. And of course, he has to be involved. I love you, Paxton. You're a good boy. Okay, so that's the end of the video. It's been a long one. You guys are patient. I do appreciate that. All the same, though, remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Remember to leave a comment, leave comments. I don't mind any type of comment or input. You guys can say anything you want, even if it's abusive, because, you know, I benefit from the wisdom of other people, even if it's negative or abusive. You know, obviously, if you're making death threats, or you're bragging about arson or embezzlement, or you're hurting little children, then I don't want to read about that. So, but anything relating to rocketry, if I'm doing anything wrong, you have past experience, you can tell me how things really are. I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. Okay, this is the Rocket Minute with your host, Jason Wampler. A little bit of a show from Paxton, and I don't know where Valencia is right now. She has disappeared. Where the hell is she? Anyway, let me locate her first, because that's weird. I mean, she's kind of... Valencia. Well, that's just as interesting as I'll get up. I don't see that little girl anywhere. Did she just get out? Valencia! Oh, there she is. Okay, she weaseled her way in the closet. She gets in there, she lays on my dirty clothes. Okay, we'll talk to you guys later, and thanks a lot.